when there was no Apple or Google wasn't that big. Although now that I think about it, probably a lot of you don't remember a
Yeah,
time
yeah.
Google wasn't
I
that
think
big.
you're talking about people like me who remember a
Yeah,
time when there was no Google, there was no Apple, there was
yeah,
no Microsoft, there was no Amazon. I think most of the people in our audience, JC, don't remember that time because
I know.
they would
I
have
know.
not yet been born.
Yeah, but other than being in other industries, and it kind of has to because there's always new needs for software. There's always like new scenarios where you need to use software. It's like if you think about something like automation, right? You're constantly making new automations for new processes, and so the tools have to keep evolving. But at a point, it does start to feel like I was a carpenter, and every year they're coming out with a new hammer that for some reason doesn't work with the old nails. But you just have to adapt and try to keep up.
I think a good analogy for the not just the newness, but the rate at which the demand for software is accelerating is kind of when the internal combustion engine, which we use in all transportation, was developed. That was in the early 90s. It became quite apparent that everybody wanted one. The demand was just so great that they couldn't make them fast enough. They couldn't get them out fast enough. But today, the same thing is happening with software. It's a fairly new industry. It's a fairly new, I guess you could say, production type industry. But the demand is so great that we can't make software fast enough because there aren't enough programmers to make software fast enough so that they can meet the demands of. We're talking about demand, the fact that there's a lot of demand and supply. The truth is, and I think you know this, not just in the Philippines, but globally, there is a shortage of experienced programmers, of good programmers. So when you have a supply and demand problem like that, obviously that affects prices, right? Just like in any economics problem. So I guess the next question, which I'm sure a lot of people are interested in, given that the demand is so great and the supply is so, what can they, if they become a professional programmer, what can they expect to earn as a professional programmer? What do you say to them?
I don't know a lot about the corporate world. I haven't spent a lot of time there. But I will say when I was working for a company, I was making between 20 and 40,000 a month. But if you're going to talk about like freelancing, like what I do now as a freelancer, until you have some work to show, you know, you got to remember that the people who are hiring freelancers, they're usually not like big companies. They're usually um, either individuals or companies of a few people that want somebody who will just get the thing done already. And you have to know how to get the thing done. So you have to prove that you can do the job. So generally speaking, fresh out of high school or college, programming job. I have friends who didn't work as programmers and just did something else while they learned and tried to build a portfolio. Like I know one guy who did like the subtitles for TV and movies, which is kind of boring, but it didn't drain him and it gave him enough free time to learn how to program. And I know another guy who worked in a call center, and he was like learning when he wasn't taking calls, uh, and worked on some projects, on the weekends. You need something, just anything to show to potential clients and say, hey, here's some work I've done. Maybe you want me to make something for you. And because of the demand problem, as you said, people people aren't that picky unless they have a lot of money.
So
So
it
it
seems to
does.
me like you're answering the question by basically saying, uh, in the early days of entering this profession, whether you do work as a well, don't expect this to be a high paying job, because
Yeah.
what you're trying to get at that beginning is experience. And actually, even if your first job wasn't programming, what you should be doing is you need to pay the bills first of
Yeah.
all, and support yourself. But you can actually spend time away from your regular job, gaining the experience, gaining the skills, gaining the knowledge, so that in 4 or 5 years time, maybe you will be programming job, whether that's in a corporate environment or in a freelancer. But so let's kind of jump. Let's go fast forward. You said, and I know this for a fact. Entry level programmers, you're looking at maybe 15 to 20,000 pesos a month is a typical salary, or depending on where you are and what company it is. But that's a
Yeah. I made
typical
I made
entry
less
level.
than that as an intern. So
Yeah, when you were an intern, I know you made less than that when you're an intern, but
yeah.
that's because that was an intern, right? But happens later on. Like in your case, you've been doing this for 9 years now.
Okay.
At about the 5 or 6 year mark in your career, when you were already working as a freelancer, what can people expect to be earning at that point? 5 to 6 years of experience.
Okay. So what well when I left the company and started freelancing for a part-time position. So if I did full time, I imagine I would have made like 60,000. I had like 4 years of experience. Um, uh, and that's probably just because I was working with foreign clients. I'm not sure how people here, how much people here in the Philippines would pay, but that it there's a lot of foreign clients. So I don't think you should be afraid like you're not going to get work. After you have even more experience than that, though, feedback that you can show to other people, you can easily be making 50 to 100,000 a month. And some people are concerned about freelancing because it might be seasonal, and there's not always work to do. And yeah, there's downtime, but I don't think I've ever been out of work for more than a few weeks, except for vacations. And if you're good at it, the amount you get paid makes up for the downtime. You just get more free time.
So it sounds like that if you're maybe 6 years of experience and you're good at it and you're able to, I guess, talk to people in a relatively good manner, that making over 50,000, 100,000 in income a month is not unusual. Would that be
Yeah.
correct to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So that gives our audience an idea. If you do this for 5 or 6 years and you're pretty good at it, then your monthly income for this. Okay. So we gotta wrap this up real quick now because we're getting close to the end of our session. So let me ask the last question of you before we end, which is, what advice would you give to someone who wants to be a professional programmer? So this is like for our audience right now. They're mostly either high school or just got out of high school, young people, and they're thinking, should I be a professional programmer? What advice would you give them now that they have not yet begun that career? What should they be doing now? And what advice would you give them to prepare themselves to become a professional programmer?
I'd say just go to code.org or codeacademy.com and just try it. They have puzzles, and it'll show you a little bit about what it means to think like a programmer. So see if you like it. You can find out today if software development is for you. There's no barrier to entry. Like all the tools are free, and the things that aren't free probably aren't worth the money. So yeah, just try it. Go to code.org or codeacademy.com. See if it's for you, and if you like it, well, just keep doing it. And like, don't stress about what programming language to take or anything. You can always learn another. They're all the same. So
It sounds like JC, and I happen to share the same sentiment. Getting started as a professional programmer does not mean science degree program. That's not necessarily the way to start, although you can certainly do that. But it sounds to me like what you're saying is that try it out. First of all, determine whether it's something that you enjoy doing. Is it something that you like to do? And you can go to, as you said, code.org or Code Academy and try out the puzzle. They're free. Try out the puzzles there. See if you enjoyed the challenge of solving those puzzles. And if you like it, keep doing it, as JC said. JC, thanks for sharing a bit of yourself and what you do. I'm really proud of my son because basically he's really the only one who's totally followed in my footsteps to become a programmer. And it's been fun seeing him go in that profession. And I could be equally proud of any of you that decide to take this on as a career path for yourself. So thank you very much for listening. As I said, JC will be joining the panel. Thank you for your attention and have a nice day. Goodbye.
All right, a father and son programmers. Thank you very much, Mr. Joey and JC Garango, for that very interesting talk. All right. And thank you also for answering some of the questions in our chat box. All right. To manage the time, so our speakers will try their best to answer your questions by replying to the chat box. But kung di man nila masagot, JC is also part of the panel discussion later, so he can address some of the questions sa discussion. All right. Okay, so as mentioned, like yesterday, we want this seminar to be interactive and engaging. So please do share your questions to our speakers about their presentations, their talks, your thoughts, and even messages of support to them. Please go ahead, send them in. So even shout outs or greetings to your colleagues, teachers, professors, go ahead. I-greet namin sila for you guys. So also, we'd love to see your posts on social media, especially sa Twitter. So kung magpo-post man kayo, please use the hashtag Y4IT 2021. Alright, guys. So, napansin ko ngayong pandemic, no, mas nauso ngayon ang video games. Tama ba? Sino ba dito ang mga naglalaro ngayon ng online games or video games? Ayan. Alright. Ayan si John, si Jewel Jade, si Irina, si Paul, hi, June Matino, Kyle Fernando, Jamil, si Janine, naglalaro sila. Ayan, si Rick. Hello, Jobert. Naglalaro din si Jobert Laberte, Joshua Lakap. Ayan, ang dami talagang gamers dito sa atin. So, for sure, I'm so sure marami naglalaro dito ng Mobile Legends. Sino familiar sa Mobile Legends? Wild Rift, Call of Duty, League of Legends, Dota 2, and Valorant. At saka marami pang iba, right? Okay, sige. Gusto ko makita sino dito ang naglalaro ng Mobile Legends. Magbigay naman kayo ng smiling emoji. Yes, Genshin Impact. Yeah, naglalaro yung brother ko noon. Si Russell, si Jexter, si Joy, si Mary. They're all playing Mobile Legends. Alright, okay. How about naman ng mga naglalaro ng Wild Rift? Bigbigay naman kayo ng thumbs up dyan. Wild Rift. Si Sean, si Paul, Angelica, John, si Angelo, si Nars. Hi, Jerome. Nag-stop na raw siya mag-play. Si John Daniel. Okay, you're all playing Wild Rift. Okay. How about yung COD, Call of Duty? Sino naglalaro ng Call of Duty? Ayan, si Vincent, si John Gray, si Orange, Vince, si John. Okay, send kayo ng heart react for COD. Heart react si Justin, si Paul, si Patrick, si Joshua. Hello, yan, naglalaro ng COD. Alright, and lastly, mag-share naman kayo ng inyong, not lastly, second to the last. How about Dota? Sino mga naglalaro ng Dota? Winking smile naman sa mga naglalaro ng Dota. Si Ace, Si Herman, si Junirix. Okay, wow, you love Dota. Okay, Dino, Case, alright. Last na game natin ay Valorant. Sinong familiar at naglalaro sa Valorant? Pahingi naman ng laugh react. Ayun, si Paul, si Joshua, si Peter, hi Eden, Rafi, Christine, naglalaro ng Valorant. Okay. Alright, so yes, Adrian, Valorant number one. All right, number one, ang Valorant. All right, okay. So, you might be wondering bakit ako nagtatanong about the games, no? Online games na nilalaro ngayon because our next speaker is the chairman of the Game Developers Association of the Philippines. Let's all welcome none other than Mr. Alvin Huban.
Hi guys, good morning. Monique, is my audio coming in okay?
Yes, I
All
can hear
right.
you clearly.
Okay, unmute myself. All right. Good morning. Thank you for having me sa Y4IT. Medyo mahirap lang yung status ko. Joey, I miss you. I hope to see you face to face very soon. That's the ultimate idol. Ika nga, dalawa lang naging boss niyan. Pareho pang legendary sa mundo. So, well, me, I'm a service guy. And in the video game industry in the Philippines, I've been serving the association for over 10 years. Over 10 years. The 10 years I served the association was as president. And after 10 years, they decided they couldn't, my association friends could not kick me out. So they kicked me upwards. So now they're chairman. So I still am quite active in the industry. So let me share my screen with you as I tell you more about the video game industry in the Philippines, because that's one thing. A lot of Filipinos are surprised that there is even a video game industry in the Philippines. Usually kasi ang mainit lang. Like when pagtanong ni Monique kanina, Mobile Legends, Valorant, COD, lahat yan. Yan naman na alam ng mga karamihan ng tao. Yung mga games na nilalaro sa Pilipinas talaga. Pero lahat ng minention ni Monique kanina, lahat yon wala akong kinalaman doon. Ibig sabihin, I was never part of their production team. So I'll share with you a bit of my experience, and then hopefully I can share with you some tips, some tricks, just in case you want to engage and challenge yourself to be part of the growing video game industry of the Philippines. So give me a minute. So first, let's see. I'm going to show you a YouTube clip of what I mostly do during the day. Here we go. All right. So proudly, I share that clip because it was almost 2 years ago, called Gears of War 5. And that scene or that map that you just saw, the amazing thing about it is Filipinos made it. In a console game or a triple A game, it takes hundreds of people, to do a project. And that's why I like using that scene and that map. Kachamba chamba, it was my team from I hope that gives you an idea on the global class level of quality of our talent in video games. It's hard to show the engineering expertise, but it's easier to show the art expertise of the Philippines coming from my eyes. And so next, all right. So to tell you about our video game industry and my is called Synergy 88. Medyo bata pa ang Synergy 88. It's 6 years old. So this is only the second studio I've been working for. And now for Synergy, my role is studio director. And most of what I do under Synergy 88 is very, very art heavy. It's very, very art heavy. It's mostly about the 3D arts. And if you've noticed during this pandemic, is everything that was digital. It's everything that was online that actually had growth. And the amazing thing about video games, since the entire world was trapped in their houses for over a year, can you believe that the video game industry garnered 3 years worth, 3 years worth of new consumers, of new users? So actually now, the biggest games in the world of last year just got there's more funding. Can you imagine that? During the pandemic, more funding was received for newer projects, the next sequel of a project, because video games actually flourished. It wasn't struggling during the pandemic, which is good for people like us. That's why I was very excited when they asked me to talk. So Y4IT, because you guys are students and you're now trying to chart your path in life, and we just proven the guys doing online work in the digital sphere that we are pretty much pandemic proof. Just for that, just for that, maybe you should really take a serious look at your options. We don't know what the future will hold in terms of health and health insecurity. So again, I hope you take a lot of time and take it seriously about listening to the experiences of the speakers of your event, and jot down the tips and tricks. You might like some. So on my part, I've been able to be part of a few AAA games. Way back when, over a decade ago, I was doing games for PlayStation. I was part of a team that did some work for Uncharted 3 and the famous Last of Us as well. My name is there. Most of you, siguro, at your age range, what you what you experienced or what you hear about nowadays is the sequel, The Last of Us 2. So I was part of the first one. And then another globally winning game was Witcher 3. So we had a small part of that as well. In the very, very famous Cyberpunk, uh, our team had a part in that as well. But we really made our mark for Synergy. We really made our mark when we hit the deal with Microsoft, with Xbox, and we started off with Gears of War 4, and eventually, as the years rolled by, we were part of. We already became the major team for Gears 5, and its additional game, additional DLC called Hivebusters. So yeah, imagine in a decade, I've been able to be part of these global projects. And what we proved is it doesn't matter where you are from. You know, global talent is global talent as long as you do some things well. So this picture, it's actually a snapshot I took of a conference in 2018. It's one of the biggest video game conferences. And why I'm sharing it with you, this was a slide used by one of the employees of our client. And he goes, well, our teams are scattered around the world. And it was projected on screen. And it was, all these countries had these yellow dots. Those were where the teams were. There were engineering teams, QA teams all around the world. And I just became so happy because when that yellow dot fell on the Philippines, I could stand up and claim, that's my yellow dot. We are the first Microsoft certified provider of heart in the Philippines. And till this day, I'm so tickled and proud that we did that because look, we're part of the Microsoft map. Um, but even if we do AAA, I Synergy 88 is part of a conglomerate of companies. We even do games locally, and some of you might have heard, and this will be a surprise to a lot of people, that it was actually us who were behind this little chain of games for Will to Play. So as everyone knows, Willie is one of the most famous TV personalities we have. He has a daily show and it gratifies a lot of its users with gifts almost on a daily basis. So our solution was to enable his fans and followers to keep on playing games even after the TV show through a mobile platform. We do have a lot of users right now, and it's still rising. And as an IT person, I'd like to share with you how a simple strategy to how we did this. Now, take it to heart if you're in IT and you're going to develop applications or programs. That is very, very important to learn how to discern the approach. How to investigate and come up with practical solutions when given a challenge. In the Philippines, and the Philippines, one thing that we know about the Philippines is our infrastructure is very challenged. Our internet is not the best. And again, most phones in the mass market are on the lower end, limited yung storage nila, and it's prepaid. So very, very limited yung mga capacities nila. So we had to design this platform because it had to be usable for the fans of Willie, which is the fans of Willie have I had to push and say that, whatever we do, the end product should hover around only 50 megabytes. Because that, I believe, is the most palatable or more acceptable file size when you're actually pushing games to the Filipinos. And these are very casual games. We're not talking about Mobile Legends or anything like that. Because Mobile Legends, that's really for mga esports aficionados. But these are games that can be played by kids and anyone else, in games right now. So talaga this should be suited to the average phone in the Philippines. And surprisingly, okay, when we put it out there a couple of months ago, it already had 5 games inside. Once you download it, a single download, and you open the Will to Play application, there are already 5 games inside. What's wonderful about that is even though it had 5 games, it's still it comes with it. Hopefully, you'll learn about that as time goes by. In video games, we're kind of different. We're kind of the oddball in technology. Some people call us weird. Sige, tanggapin namin yon. Because the way we use technology is basically for entertainment. So we pretty much in our team, we pretty much need people who are either left brain or right brain. So here you are the most logical. You plan things out in great detail. Hopefully, you are very math and science minded. And for the right brain, here's where the art people come from. They're really focused on creating things from scratch. Their imagination soars, and they invent things. They prefer storytelling. So you need these two main sections when you're doing a video game. These are what you do. So even though that this is Y4IT, I do expect that if we were to be in one room altogether, I would ask you guys, are you left brain, are you right brain? I'm pretty sure we'd probably have an even division in the room. Usually that is the case. Again, even under an IT umbrella, there are some people who really feel creative. They'll be more prone to the arts, and then some will probably be more prone into the engineering or the development side of things in video games. And and there's really no secret. We don't write books. We're not very academic, but through our experience, these are the very, very general steps that we want to share with you if you want to embark on a career in video games. Again, this is very different. Parents entering video games because it's there's a veil of mystery behind it. People think that all we do every day is play. They don't understand that what we do is actually real work, and it's all about development. It's a hard job. It's a hard job, and it's quite challenging. And actually, we don't need a whole lot of people. We don't need a whole lot of people. We just need a special few, and maybe that's if you did embark on that career and you had for example, you took a game course because we do have, for the last 10 years, we've had a game design and development course in the Philippines.